Hi everybody, this is your directions for the state practice tests. And the first thing we got to do is we got to find them. And what you're going to do is you're going to go onto your portal, you'll go to the little thing that says assessments, and then you've got to go down, as I toggle through there, and you got to go to state assessments. And you pull up state assessments, and then it'll say students and family. That's the one you click on. Then it's going to say practice and training tests. That's the one you click on. Then there's going to be a bunch of stuff that you've just got to, hold on, there it goes. Then it's going to be a bunch of stuff you don't need to sign in. It'll just say you're a guest. You can say sign in. You do have to here select your grade. So now we're going to go to 8th grade, and then you just say yes. And then this is a list of all the different practice tests we have, and we've got to go down to the science test. Today you guys are going to be doing the 5th grade and the 8th grade. We're going to have you do this one first after you get the instructions, and then this one second. And it's just to get you completely familiar with the interface that you're going to be using on the test and the like. But this is how you get to them. And so when you see these various tests that we're going to be showing in these movies, they're going to be coming off of this. All right, this is an example. This is off the 5th grade practice test. You guys will all be seeing this in a minute. But this is the interface for it, and this is about as simple a question as they ask, where you've just got a question, a graphic, and a multiple choice answer. And you can see up here, you can go to the next question right here. We have some tools up in this corner. If you need a calculator for anything, you can press on the calculator, and that will bring the calculator up. You can zoom in and zoom out, and you guys can play with those today when you're doing the practice test. But the key is you cannot move on until you give an answer. And so we're going to go ahead and do that and then move on. And now we get to this kind of one. This is a split screen one, and you can see they've got some reading here with some graphics on one side, and now they have multiple things that you need to do with it on this side. So we've got 2 different places we need to answer on this question. You can take this and you can give yourself the whole screen this way and see all of that stuff, so you can see it real easy. And you can do the same thing with this. You can see all of this full screen. Sometimes the screen cuts parts of it off, and you have a little scroll bar here, so that's when these are nice to do. So that's kind of the basic interface there. Anything else to add on this, Mrs. Brent?
Yes, if you go down to question 3, something that you haven't had in the past, sometimes you are now going to have check boxes, and so in this case you are just going to put checks into the certain boxes, and we haven't had that before on any of our state testing.
Okay, and then once again, it won't let you move on until you make a selection all the way through. Okay, everybody, this is now off of the 8th grade practice test that you'll be doing a bit, and you'll see a couple of new things that you didn't see before. One is up here, we showed you the calculator with the earlier test. Now we got a periodic table up here, so if you have any questions that you need a periodic table for, that's where you get that. And then the other one is this little feature right here. When you go over, it says locking item, and here's what locking item means. It means you can't go back to this. And we don't really recommend going back to questions anyway. Mrs. Brent will talk about that in a moment. But what you'll notice, you may get excited if you did this question. When you go to the very next question, it actually gives you the answer to this. And obviously they don't want you doing that. They want you to come up with the answer of your own. So basically a locking item means under no circumstances can you go back to it.
In the past, when you guys have been working on tests, you've been encouraged to flag questions that you didn't quite know if you were sure on that answer, so that you could go back to it. We're going to be doing the science test over 3 days, and so we discourage flagging. And the reason for that is because when we end a test session, you will not be able the next day to log in and go back to any questions you flagged before. They're closed out. So when you're going through, you do not want to flag questions. You want to make sure you answer them the best that you can, and then know that when we shut down the test for that day, you're going to be finished with that, and when we log in the next day, you'll continue where you left off.
All right, and the final thing we want to talk about on this test, we didn't see any examples of these on the 5th grade test, but you're not going to take the 5th grade test anyway. But that is just simply, I'm gonna just quickly fill in some answers here so we can get all this done and move on. So the practice test will let me move on. You've got to have everything answered before it will let you. So I'm doing this in no particular order. But what we want to show you is that many of the questions run more than one page. And so we need to show you how to deal with that. So let me get this ready to go here. You can see I'm doing all kinds of dragging and dropping, which you have to do on a few of the questions here. And I have no idea how right I am. I haven't even read it. And then so now I can move on to the next one. We'll go next.
This is where it shows you that it is a locking item. So once you submit this, you are not going to be able to go back.
So you say yes, and now we get to the next one, and now you can see we've got a new thing up here. It says Section 1, Section 2, and you can see it's still dealing with this same question. And here's where we get the answers for it that we talked about before. But now they're going to be asking you more stuff about the same scenario. We're still dealing with reproduction and the like, and so this allows you to go back and see the previous information. So on this one, you can go back and forth. You can go back and forth on this just so you can see all the relevant information to the question. Again, this is a question where you've got multiple pages of stuff on a single idea or topic. And so today, when you guys are going through both the 5th grade test and the 8th grade test, what we really want you to do is get familiar with the format. We want you to get familiar with all the different ways they have you mark things on this test. Sometimes they have you pick multiple choices. Sometimes they have you check boxes like this. Sometimes they have you click and drag. Sometimes they have drop-down menus. They just have a lot of different ways that you can answer the questions, and we need to get you guys familiarized with all of those before we take the test next week. And again, Mrs. Brent and I are allowed to give you virtually no help on the test. We don't even really like looking at your screens where we see the questions on them. We're supposed to be completely in the dark about what the test questions are and what's on the test. So we can't pronounce words for you. We can't tell you what words mean. We really will probably on 99% of your questions shrug and say, I'm sorry, we can't help you with that. So that's kind of the way it works. And we'll jump into this next week. So work through, make sure you just kind of get an idea of how all the bells and whistles and functions of the test work. Okay? And that's what we're going to do today. Thanks for watching.